Good on you, Mon. Thank you. Some alarming news this morning. Many popular iPhone apps have been found to be secretly recording what's on your phone screen, and there's no way you would know it's even happening. Major companies like Air Canada and Expedia are among those caught recording every tap you make, and they don't have to ask for your permission. They can even access private information like bank account details and passwords. So how do you know if you're being spied on, and what can you do about it? Technology expert Chris Riddell joins us from Melbourne this morning. Chris, good morning to you. First up, explain for us, if you can, how the apps are secretly recording iPhone screens.
Look, I think the first thing, Basil, is if you do have an iPhone, Tim Cook, who is the CEO of Apple, has always been really clear that he does not want third-party companies using apps or trying to gather data about their users. Apple are all about privacy, so this is not something that Apple were ready for. This has come as a surprise to them, and you can be absolutely assured they're going to crack down on this with Apple's position on privacy with users.
All right, well, we hope that that's going to happen, but when will that start? I mean, half the world's got an iPhone, and if it's happening already, we want Tim Cook to get cracking.
Look, Tim was really clear at the end of last year. This is something that lots of app developers have tried to do. They've tried to circumvent Apple's security systems to be able to try and glean data off users' phones. And the big thing is they crack down on this really quickly when it happens. Google, on the other hand, is a bit of a different story. I mean, if you've got an Android device, Google make their money from data. Apple make their money from devices, and these are two very, very different models. I mean, if you do have an Android device, we've seen heaps of stories over the last couple of years where security has been a problem. That is going to continue to be an issue, but rest assured, Apple are protecting customers' data with this. You need to go and check your privacy settings. You need to make sure that you're updating this, but this particular story here has certainly come as a surprise to Apple, and they've cracked down on it, and they're stopping these type of apps in their app store.
OK, well, thank goodness for that. Now, I don't mind if they access my frequent flyer details or if they're part of my 7+ account, but if they're looking at me when I'm tapping in the numbers for my internet banking or the phone banking on the app, then I, quite rightly, would be genuinely concerned. Should people watching us right now be worried that perhaps their banking details have been compromised or have been viewed?
Look, I don't think so at this stage. Apple caught this really early, and I think there's a lot of fear at the moment. 2019 and even last year, we've seen massive stories in the media about data breaches. Apple's intent here is very clear. They're going to be protecting to make sure that your private data, your banking data, your emails, the tapping that you're doing on your devices isn't leaked to third parties. And particularly with stories like Facebook last year, I mean, Apple really came down hard on Facebook when the whole Cambridge Analytica crisis happened, because they said that's not the way of the future, that you have to protect your customers' privacy. Apple are not allowing these third-party providers to come in and scrape our information as we're typing it. And I think you've got to be mindful, though, of your data. Sure. Use proper privacy protection on any device. And if you've got an Android, you're pretty screwed in the future. OK, all right. Well, just on the important issue of people who are being spied upon, I mean, I wouldn't know if anyone was spying on me. How would you know? Look, there's a few settings, so it depends what type of device you've got, whether you've got an Android or an Apple device. I mean, the truth is, as far as if somebody's scraping the information off your phone through another app, you're going to find it pretty hard to do that. We've got to rely and trust on the phone manufacturers, and this is where the contention happens. We don't trust big brands at the moment. We're paranoid about them all trying to scrape our information. So, again, you've got to be really looking at the type of device you're using. If you're using a Google Android-type device, there's a very different market at play there. They do want data. They want to resell or create access for third parties to use your data. But if you've got an iPhone, go into your settings, make sure your privacy settings are up to date. But also, you've got to also rely that Apple are also getting onto this, which with this last story, Basil, they were onto this within literally minutes, and they've shut down the app developers that were trying to do this. They made it very clear this is not allowed on the Apple iOS platform. All right, well, that's good to hear, and that's why they have those shiny Apple stores, isn't it, all around the world. Chris, good on you. Thanks for your time. Thanks, Basil.
Here's Mon.